Howdy, howdy.
Hello, everybody. This is a prober. Hi.
But it was aliens. The extraterrestrial comedy podcast where we probe paranormal activity to determine whether this activity really was paranormal.
Probe.
It's my turn to host this week, and my name is Kev, and that means that alongside me, with no idea what's coming up today, is Mr. Granville Moonwalker.
I walk on the moon.
Today, we head to Fort George
Forman!
Fort George Foreman Island in Florida. This is an island named...
Because it's full of cheeseburgers.
You've guessed it. After cheeseburgers. No, after Fort George, which was built in 1736 to protect the colony of Georgia. Georgia! The year we are heading to today is 1974.
Absolute great track, by the way. Georgia.
Georgia. Do you reckon I could do a whole episode in this voice?
No. I don't think you've got the balls to do it.
Well, hey. Let's see how we get on. The Betz family were a happy family. All was well for marine biologist, Dad Antoine. Real estate and trucking business owner Mom, Jerry. And little Terry, 21. And Wayne. Wayne! My name's Wayne! There was also an unnamed sister.
Why was she unnamed?
All was good.
But why was she unnamed?
We do not speak of her.
Well, shit. You damn asked me a question, I gotta answer. Mother trucker?
Okay, so we don't speak of her, and you've given me a picture of a house. Quite an old, battered house, so I'm taking it this is the location of what happened today, rather than this is the state in which it was when it happened.
Indeed, as I said, at this point in time, all was good. In 1974, all was good. Until one day, in March 1974, catastrophe struck. More precisely, fire struck. The family home was burned to the ground. Nothing was left, or so they thought. I will add that some accounts say that it was a small bushfire by the garden rather than a house fire, and I've just shown Mr. Moonwalker a photo of the dilapidated house as it stands today, which indicates that the house didn't burn down. But regardless, as Mr. Betz and Terry, 21, assessed the rubble and ruin left behind by the vicious flames of hell, something shiny caught their eye. There was a peculiar metal sphere sat amongst the ashen remains. This thing was slightly smaller than a bowling ball, yet significantly heavier.
Dense.
Mr. Betz assumed that the sphere was a cannonball from history, perhaps left over from Spanish colonizers. But unusually, the sphere was not impacted by the woes of time. There were no rust marks. This thing was shiny. Precious. Meanwhile, cannonballs from that time period would have been iron or stone, and never stainless steel or whatever this sphere was made of. The family took the sphere home, and when they did, things got weird.
Was it a giant ball bearing?
Why would there be a giant ball bearing?
I don't know.
What
Same
do giant
way.
ball bearings do?
Play marbles with them.
What, giants?
Didn't you play marbles when you were a kid?
I did.
You had kingsies and queensies, and then you had like
Giantsies.
ball bearings.
Bowl and ball marbles. You rock up to school, all the other kids got standard marbles. You whip out a bowling ball.
Can't be serious, bitch.
They'd have to hit yours like 10 times. You just have to hit them once.
Destroy them.
And I remember loads of times where you just be in the garden and then all of a sudden you just see a marble that has been like embedded in the ground because it had been lost to time and stood on. Bring back marbles.
Marbles, games in general, when you were a kid or when we were kids before consoles. I mean, consoles were around, don't get me wrong, we're not ancient. Well, I'm not. But we used to play outside when we were young.
I mean, we're aging ourselves with marbles here. I'm going to age us even more.
To be fair, marbles were old when we were young, so
gonna
I don't know
age
that we
us
are.
even more now. Pogs.
Pogs, I loved Pogs.
So, can you remember the plastic Ziploc book bags?
Yes.
I had about 6 or 7 of those filled with Pogs.
I had one filled with every single Pog in the first series of Pogs.
And my mum didn't want me having Pogs. I don't know why. Fucking spoil sport. And she
Seems like a strange one to ban.
I think it's because I just kept coming home with more and more Pogs. Because I was a fucking winner.
You were stealing them off the other kids.
So
with your
she
bowling ball.
threw my fucking Pogs away. Fuming, son.
Damn, Mrs. Moonwalker. That's a harsh one.
And then it was slammers.
Yeah.
Slammers.
Metal slammers. Mm-hmm. Them were the ones.
I remember getting absolutely pissed off because my cousin beat me and nearly won all my fucking slammers.
I never played for my slammers. You'd slam the Pogs for the Pogs, but you're not taking my slammers.
I played for slammers. And then I remember winning them back. And I was fucking happy, and then I refused to play again. Cut my losses here, I got my slammers back. And you had the fucking chubba metal ones.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good days.
I liked the Series 1 Pogs, the classics. Did I have cavemen on them or something?
Yep.
Yeah. Them were the days.
And you had Tazos.
Yeah. And then Star Wars
Being
Tazos.
a kid was awesome.
Like I say, now like kids are just obsessed with computer games. Just not as varied a world, is there?
Nope. I want to start collecting Pogs.
After this, we're going to go down to like car boot sale tomorrow morning. We're looking for them Pogs.
You know, once
Gotta get them Pogs.
you have a kid, you're going to have, like whether it's a boy or girl, you're going to force
Pogs on them.
you're going to force football stickers on them just so you can get football stickers.
I'm all about the Pogs now. I'm making plans tomorrow morning to find me some Pogs.
Gonna buy a sticker book and
Stick Pogs in them.
like, why are you buying that? For Kev's kid. Why is it here? Shut up.
Do you want to play Pogs? As I've got them. Have you got any slammers?
We have gone on a massive tangent here.
We're not far off 10 minutes into this episode. We've basically talked about Pogs and a bit about a bowling ball.
But also, no matter what you have as a kid,
That's a weird sentence.
like, I know, you having a kid, fucking hell. But
Who'd have thought it worked?
little Elton is going to be well looked after.
I said this to my partner the other day, and she was like, there's no way Grandpa was calling his kid Jism. You're losing that bet.
I fucking will.
Your partner would not let you call your child Jism.
Got no choice.
Just to pick up on the wording of our bet, you will call your firstborn Jism.
Captain Chisholm.
And I will call my child Elton. I never said my firstborn.
I was trying to... No, I think the message does say firstborn. I was trying to find it the other day.
I've got it saved.
Oh, good.
Sadly, I am going to have to lose that bet. I did try. I've been told I'm not allowed to call the child Elton.
It's fine. I will nickname the child for you.
Thank you. And I'll nickname yours.
Little CJ. Wait until they're like 21. Why does Uncle Kev keep calling me CJ? Because your name's Captain Jism.
You know, on like yearbook photos, everyone gets like a little sentence after their name. Your child on the yearbook photo, like you've got most likely to succeed, gonna work for NASA. Your one just says their name, Captain Jism.
Their true name. Tangent over.
Little Terry, 21, happened to have the unusual sphere with him as Terry, 21, was strumming his guitar. Terry, 21, noticed that the sphere was moving of its own accord.
To his beat.
It was almost as if the sphere was reacting to the music. Not only that, but the sphere begun making a weird throbbing noise too. How can an inanimate object both move and make noises by itself? To begin with, this was quite fun for the Betz. The family would sit on the floor rolling the ball to each other. You can picture the scene. They're sat there on their butts with their legs out rolling the ball, and as it rolled about halfway along, the ball would literally stop, think about it, and change direction, rolling back to the person who rolled it. The throbbing noise also begun scaring the family poodle, who, when near the sphere, would begin dog crying and cover her ears with her paws. Why did the ball roll back? Did it see the person who touched it last, who commanded it, as its leader? You got a crazy ball with a mind of its own.
So yeah, it's quite... I see what you are getting at now, bushfire. It's quite possible this ball landed from outer space and is a space ball alien.
Space balls.
And set the bush on fire.
Yeah, it either could have been a craft, it could have been a part of a craft, or it could have been the creature itself.
Indeed. Spaceballs.
Spaceballs indeed.
If every time they tried to roll it to another person, it just rolled back to the first person, then they never really rolled it to each other in the first place, did
The
they?
one person was rolling it back and forth to them. They basically had a yo-yo. You got 5 members of family all sat there with their legs together. I want to turn.
And it's just like, nope. And then what they done is they switched places and it still went to the original person. It's my ball now.
The ball's like, F you. By April 1974, this had, of course, hit the local press. Lou Egner, a photographer of the Jacksonville Journal, arrived to investigate, and Mrs. Betz plopped the sphere on the floor. The sphere, as described by Lou, rolled a little forward, then stopped. Lou was unimpressed, but Mrs. Betz insisted, "Wait." Suddenly, the sphere turned to the right and rolled about 4 feet. Then the ball turned to its left and rolled about 8 feet. The ball went in a big arc and came right back to Lou's feet. Lou didn't know what to think. I'm just showing Mr. Moonwalker here a headline from the April the 15th, 1974 issue of the St. Petersburg Times as we continue, because this sphere really took off and confused people as it did.
I can definitely see what would be confusing, and normally in a case like this, we're just taking someone's word for it, but there are so many paper clippings of it that somebody must have seen it.
I've shown Mr. Moonwalker more than 10 separate clippings from different media outlets.
I know sometimes news can be slow and they will just take a news story from another newspaper and run it, but someone must have seen something.
We got a space ball.
This isn't just a story going out and then everyone running with it.
The St. Petersburg Times outlined that even the Navy called this thing the Mexican jumping bean. Yes, the Navy examined it at Jacksonville Naval Air Station. This sphere must have been suspicious for the Navy to give a damn. A researcher from research company Omega-1 in Louisiana, also spent 6 hours examining the sphere and determined that not only did the sphere generate its own magnetic field, but the sphere also excreted radio waves. This thing was communicating with something somewhere. The Betz family theorized that the sphere was sensitive to solar radiation as it appeared to move more intensely during periods of more intense sunlight.
At what point did this thing jump?
When the Navy were examining it, I guess, because that's what they called it.
And did
The Navy weren't sharing their
it come
stories.
from Mexico? Did it have a little Mexican flag on it? Why is it all of a sudden a Mexican jumping bean?
Every time it jumped, it was like, ole! Maybe they picked up the radio frequency and this thing was talking in Mexican.
It was just set to a Mexican radio station.
Arriba, arriba! Ole!
If it was sending out a radio signal to somewhere else, could they follow that signal?
I don't know that that's quite
Pick
how
up its
radio...
frequency
Yeah.
and
So
kind of see where it's coming from.
I don't know that they did. Well, I do know whether they did or don't, but I'm not going to comment on that.
Yet.
Or ever.
Are you the Mexican jumping bean?
So, yeah, you'd be picking up the radio signal, and radio signals would just go out and out across space and time, wouldn't they? And just fire, and then people would know, like, say, if we were listening to our radio station, we tune it to that frequency to hear it.
I'm sure there must be some technology to pick up where it's broadcast from, though.
Well, where it's broadcast from, yes. But that broadcast
I
keeps on
suppose.
going, so you wouldn't be able to tell where that's going to, because everyone would be picking it up from where they're picking it up from.
That's what I get. Sorry. It wasn't radio waves transmitting to
Yeah.
it. It was the other way around. Yeah. My bad.
The ball was next sent via jet to a certain Dr. J. Allen Hynek at Northwestern University of Illinois. Well, I say jet. I've seen 2.5 different accounts here, and indeed heard 2 different accounts amongst the 5 podcasts I listened to on this after writing our own research. So I've come back in and amended this bit. The other account goes that Dr. Hynek was actually already going to be in the nearby area for a press event, setting a reward for anyone who could prove aliens exist to a panel of 5 leading ufologists. It's written that little Terry, 21, and his sister drove out to give the sphere to Hynek. A slight variation on that says that the host of that alien event, the National Enquirer, paid to fly Terry, 21, out to present the sphere to the panel. Regardless, Hynek is looking at this thing.
I would love to sit down and have a chat with Dr. Hynek.
There's no way he's telling you what he's really seen.
No, there's not. But it could be a way if you mibbed him.
If you mibbed him, you can mib him off.
I don't know what it means. You do, so
You
can
just
do it.
suggested it. You should be careful
you
suggesting
can mib
things.
him.
Don't you want to mib off?
You can mib
You
him
can-
off,
You can mib him off.
and we can find out.
But he
some
wouldn't like it
secret tech.
if I mibbed him off.
Would fucking love it.
But he'd really love it if you mibbed him off. Like,
Nah, I don't
really,
think he
really.
would.
He would.
Really?
Really? We've discussed the hardcore UFO world before. They're quite passionate and quite against anyone who, I wouldn't say doesn't believe, but looks to other explanations before looking to the more outlandish explanations.
I wouldn't say that we don't believe. I just
I'm
say
not saying
want
we
the
don't.
truth.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. But the hardcore ufologists out there can get quite angry at people who don't jump straight to alien explanations before looking at other things.
I'll fight them.
I wonder if any... All right, I won't. I wonder if any of these ufologists we talk about sometimes have actually listened to our show and have started writing vendettas against us. If we went to a
Put us on a
UFO...
hit list if they ever meet aliens.
And it's not even that we don't believe in aliens. It's just that we take convincing, as anyone should, really.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're going to be very gullible in life and get yourself into trouble if you don't question things, aren't you? But yeah, if we went to a UFO conference... We'd probably have our arse. Well, I'd have my arse torn to pieces. You'd be fighting people. I'd be like, "Hey guys, can we just get along?" Due to being at the event, Hynek was able to study the sphere along with the 5 other scientists there for that alien reward event. Dr. J. Allen Hynek and co. gave a thorough once-over to the sphere and concluded that the sphere was man-made.
Ooh.
The exact quote was supposedly,
None will go so far as to say it's extraterrestrial. They would be putting their scientific reputations on the line.
now, why is it necessary to add that bit on the end about reputations? If you were certain, wouldn't you just say that it's human-made? If you wouldn't go so far as to say that it's alien technology, how far would you go exactly? Far, but not so far. There is a rumour out there that Dr. Hynek replaced the sphere with a fake and kept the original. This rumour started because Paul Hynek, son of Dr. Hynek, has stated that growing up his family had a metal ball his father got from a Florida UFO case. Why would Hynek take the sphere?
Now, the bit about putting their scientific reputations on the line.
Yeah.
Sometimes
It's almost like a threat.
It's just that there's not that extra 10% there where they're willing to take that leap. They could just be teetering on the edge and they want that extra 10% and it's not there. That's why they're not willing to say it. But they probably believe that it is. Now, Hynek, what if this metal ball was, you know, like a remote control car?
Yep.
This is just a remote control sphere that can be
got like
controlled,
a weight inside of it that can be controlled
from, like, I don't know, various distances. Considering the radio signal is going out from the sphere, it's quite possible that other objects are receiving it and controlling it. So if you were to sit in your car and adjust something on your radio and press a button, you move the sphere without realizing it. And maybe Hynek has one of these, but he doesn't have the upgraded one that his family wants, so he swapped them out and kept the more advanced one for himself. He's greedy, like a bully who came and stole your slammers.
took all your pogs. But none will go so far as to say it's extraterrestrial. They'd be putting their scientific reputation on the line. That's not saying it's not extraterrestrial. It's just saying that people don't want to put the reputation on the line. Couldn't they just say yes, no, or maybe, though?
Also, if he swapped this for a fake one, did the fake one just not work? Because then I'd be asking questions as to why it's no longer working.
Well, maybe that's why they think he replaced it. Or maybe because it had been examined by lots of people by this point, when it returned to its owners, the fake one, maybe they just put it in a box somewhere and didn't play with it again because it had already been fiddled with. It'd been diddled.
I got a question.
Yeah.
I should know this, but has Dr. Hynek passed away?
I believe so, yeah.
Oh, okay. His son's a snitch.
Didn't we cover what his son went on to do?
Probably, but I can't remember.
Predator? Not ringing a bell?
No.
No worries. I'm now showing Mr. Moonwalker a photo of little Wayne Betz, 12, with the sphere as we describe what this thing looked like. The sphere was 8 inches diameter with no seams, consisting of a shell of very high-grade steel around an inch give or take in thickness. Inside, it was hollow. The sphere had a small triangular mark on the outside. Remember the Navy probed this? The Navy made an attempt to X-ray the sphere and this failed. The sphere was too thick and powerful to be penetrated. A subsequent, more powerful scan showed that the ball had some tiny residue balls inside which moved around freely. Chris Berninger, Navy spokesman, stated that he didn't believe the object to be alien, but confirmed that the sphere did move of its own accord. The Navy confirmed that the sphere was not an explosive.
What crossed my mind at that point was like a gyroscope, if that's what I'm thinking of. Trying to think of. So it's a ball within a ball that spins.
Balls within a ball.
Or balls within a ball that spin and move. So wherever the weight of those go, they roll towards.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you.
So when they rolled the ball, it went one way, and then
but then those balls were in another position of the ball and
so
pulled
they
it another
spun
way.
and just pulled it back the other way. And then when it rolled and then stopped, and then turned and went back around in a circle, it could literally be where the balls on the inside were slowly moving back to one side and then caused it to roll off.
So on that note, how about you eat my arse?
With a spoon?
I'm going to cut the last 5 minutes of this episode.
Fuck off.
Snippy, snippy.
I was right!
Going to cut that too. Anything you say from this point forward, I'm just going to bleep over. I know the location of the Philosopher's Stone. The Betz family phone was ringing literally 24 hours per day, and after a year or so, the family got sick of it. The family therefore just flatly stopped talking about or showing the sphere to anyone. Radio silence. They stopped responding. Therefore, today nobody knows exactly what happened to the Betz Sphere or can be sure as to where the sphere came from. Or can they? I ask you, what else could the Betz Sphere be? A Jacksonville equipment supply company confirmed that they held in their stock almost identical spheres. The president, Robert Edwards, upon seeing the sphere in the news, contacted reporters to show them his 8-incher, the Bell & Howell stainless steel ball, aka ball check valve, of which the company had many in stock. Basically, these were suggested to be the ball that lives within a ball check valve as used commonly in some pumps and spray devices. We don't have the Betz Sphere available to examine further today, but we know the sphere's dimensions from previous examinations, and it exactly matched the size and weight of one of these ball check valves. Why are you looking at me like that? What?
Just not going to say anything because you're going to cut it.
I'm going to cut that. You said right at the start of the show, ball bearing.
It was looking at the house. For some reason, I just imagined like a giant windmill or something being attached to the side of the house at some point, and a giant ball bearing being in it.
Dee-dee-dee, dee-dee-dee.
There you go. Song of Storms.
Yeah, I don't think there was a windmill there, but we'll touch upon your understanding there momentarily.
I mean, if that's the case, what? I suppose Hynek wouldn't have stolen it then at that point, would he? He may have literally been given one at this investigation to prove that this isn't
Wow.
what it is.
We can't verify that either way. He might have stolen it.
I mean, we
and
can't.
this could be the
but-
cover-up that they put out. Blue Book. Don't trust these
His
guys.
son's still a snitch. But you mentioned Predator. Did his son have something to do with Predator?
I might have put this in the notes. I've definitely mentioned it before, but we'll discuss that at the end. Mainly because I can't remember exactly what he did, but I think I've got a rough idea.
Imagine he's part of the team that created Predator from things that his dad has told him. And I'm going to find that fucking hilarious if it's to the Predator that Jean-Claude Van Damme was meant to be. And they changed it. Serpent snake thingy. Nonsense.
But these ball check valve thingies, no one's saying they give off radio communications.
Are they giving off radio communications or are they just bouncing back radio communications?
That's an astute question, Mr. Moonwalker. So, moving on. After that Navy investigation, that Navy spokesperson, Chris Berninger, believed that the Betz family home was uneven and suggested that the sphere was perfectly balanced, meaning that even the slightest indentation in a floor would set the ball off rolling or cause a change in direction. Meanwhile, the ball had a tiny triangle indentation in it, which could take the ball ever so slightly off balance and result in further rolling. The Betz family didn't want the sphere cut and so declined further Navy tests which would harm the sphere. Even if they didn't know what it was, the Navy were sure it was earthly. It's worth noting that the Betz Sphere at times sat on display and never moved when in that situation. It was only when taken out and played with or put on the floor that the sphere behaved unusually. We know pretty much all we need to now, except for its origin. Skeptoid uncovered that an artist collecting metal for sculptures drove through the Florida area during Easter 1971. Summarising this detail, someone noticed some balls similar to the Betz in one of the artist's sculptures and asked the artist about them. James Sterling Jones confirmed that he collected some scrap metal balls from an old factory and noted that when passing this area of Florida, a few balls fell off the roof of his minibus. Did the Betz take one of Sterling Jones's balls? I suppose when you think about it, it would be a little surprising if aliens used a steel alloy for their own extraterrestrial spacefaring technology, as the steel would be damaged by the extreme heat during atmospheric entry. That is the case.
Not if it was covered in something that burnt away as it entered the atmosphere and then allowed it to drop. But either way, the triangle indentation was was probably the words probably used as a guiding mark for whatever the ball was used for, I'm assuming.
Or it was just chipped one day.
In a perfect triangle.
Yeah.
Or I suppose if it was used as an
I mean,
art
they
piece.
say it was perfect.
I mean, if it's used in an art piece,
Perfect.
he might have put that triangle on it.
So I think I got my Hynek details slightly wrong. It was Joel Hynek who worked on the visual effects of Predator. Paul Hynek worked on Tintin.
Both sons of Dr. J. Allen.
I believe so. Yeah. Well, Paul Hynek said, obviously, that his dad.
What about Joel? Boy Joel.
I'm 99% sure. Yes. Joel Hynek is the first child that comes up when you Google the children of J. Allen Hynek.
The most important one.
There you go. And whilst we're Googling, Mr. Joseph Allen Hynek passed away in April 1986.
Oh, bloody hell.
There we go. Quite a while ago.
How have we not known that?
Well, I'm pretty sure we've covered that a few times.
Possibly.
Just easy to forget when you cover so many different people, like Dr. Leo Fartsprinkle, for example. We haven't seen Fartsprinkle for a while. That smile.
That all-knowing smile.
Yep. He knows what he's done. Puts people under. He's like a serial killer, but only he's not killing people. Right, let's get off
Like
Fartsprinkle because he's
like-
got nothing to do with this case.
Dexter collecting slides.
He takes photos, he takes stills of people as he bum puffs just at the moment they sniff for the first time.
As it wafts up the nose. You can see the nose twitch.
And he snaps it and he's got like a murder box of those stills. Anyway, going back over today's episode, we met the Betz family on Fort George Island, who in 1974 found an otherworldly sphere. The 8-inch diameter sphere moved of its own accord, stopping and changing its own direction on a whim as the family watched on. The press soon heard about it. Jacksonville Journal photographer Lou Egner visited and witnessed the sphere doing just as people said, moving of its own accord. A researcher from Omega-1 checked out the ball and identified that the sphere both had a strong magnetic field and was transmitting radio waves. Radio waves,
Jonathan
gosh darn
Watts.
it. We don't know who the sphere was communicating with. The Navy, meanwhile, called the sphere a Mexican jumping bean. What did they see? The Navy tried to X-ray the sphere and their initial attempt failed, though they did subsequently confirm that the sphere was made of steel. Bars of steel! The sphere was next given to Dr. Joseph Allen Hynek, who was nearby with a scientific panel on another engagement. The panel would not say that the sphere was aliens, as they'd be putting their reputations on the line. Years later, Dr. Hynek's son, Paul, would state that the family grew up with a metal sphere from a Florida UFO case. Did Hynek take the sphere? It's not known where the sphere is today. What is believed, however, is that, sadly, the sphere was most likely a ball check valve which fell off of an artist's vehicle when they were passing about 3 years earlier looking for scrap metal for sculptures. The perfect sphere with a tiny triangular indentation would likely have rolled as if of its own accord if on an uneven surface, and the Betz house was probably uneven. Is there anything that you want to go over, Mr. Moonwalker, before we conclude this episode?
I don't think Hynek took the sphere, as it is said at the end that they got fed up of the calls and everything, so just point blank refused to answer. So
Must have been annoying getting those calls like for a year afterwards. A
100%.
year. Like a couple of weeks, it could be fun.
So it's quite possible that that company gave one to Hynek to test between the two,
Or
and he kept it.
did Hynek instigate a cover-up? He created a history for a company that never existed.
No.
Okay, well, are you saying that it was aliens?
No. This is a ball check valve.
Eat my ass. Did you check out my picture of
I
Terry,
did.
21?
Terry Funk.
It's got one of those like piddly double moustaches with a gap in the middle.
With his 70s glasses on.
Right. I'm also not saying that it was aliens. This one is actually quite popular in the world of ufology, and you can see why if all you hear are the headlines. An object that's been witnessed by many to move by itself is pretty unusual. But when you consider this object as a perfectly round sphere on an uneven surface, that starts to sound a bit less impressive. I think it's probably mainly just the fact that the first Navy X-ray failed that convinced a lot of folks that this sphere was alien technology. That and the alleged radio waves, which weren't mentioned by anyone else who probed this ball. When you look a little deeper though, it's much more likely that the ball was just an earthly ball, so I'm not on board, but I do love that Hynek may have actually grabbed this ball. He took off with it. He was gone! There is a 5-episode 2019 podcast out there called Oddball, which details this whole case in great detail. And Season 12, Episode 2 of Ancient Aliens also details this sphere. The word is out there, and a lot of people will believe this one, but not us, unfortunately. That is all we have to say on the Betz Sphere. Unless you have any final thoughts, that is, Mr. Moonwalker.
I would have liked to have seen them slice it.
Yeah, cut it in half.
And then, yeah.
You sadistic bastard. That could be a living entity.
It's a ball bearing.
It's transmitting radio waves. It's Transformer. It's Optimus Megazord.
Well, at that point, it's got the choice to either transform or die. It's on you.
And that is a wrap for today. Thank
Been
you.
a ball.
Thank you, one and all, for listening to our ball on But It Was Aliens. If you're not ready to say goodbye and want to hear some more paranormal shenanigans, you can become a patron of the show. In exchange, you would gain access to our side probes. Monthly bonus episodes that MIBs don't want you to hear, but we do. On the Patreon, we spread our wings just a little bit more and cover some really bonkers stuff. Stuff too much for the ears of the general public. And on that note, if you have any comments or suggestions of unusual cases for us to probe, you can hit us up on the X Twitter at But It Was Aliens. We truly love hearing from our listeners. We've been going a good while now, but it's still such a weird and hard feeling to describe when someone messages us and says the show's helped them in some small way. It feels awkward talking about it. It's absolutely bonkers. If you're a like-minded, friendly neighbourhood prober, you are invited to our private Nobody Is Welcome Facebook group for all called Extraterrestrial Towers. This is connected to the But It Was Aliens Facebook page and is a pretty relaxed place where we do not discriminate or alienate, but we do alien. That's it from us today, so until next time. What happens if you turn a vegan into a vampire? The truth is up there. #. I
also think they'd be fine.
Nando.